so check it out. This is just going off the top of the dome today. I've been trying to shoot this video for like 2 days, and it's no big deal, but I just haven't done a history video in a while. Got a lot of homeboys in Britain right now, in England, and you know, I just wanted to do a history video, and maybe somebody who cares, because when I'm talking British history in America, most people don't give a shit. Most people don't give a shit about history in general. And I'm sure most people in Britain don't give a fuck about British history either, maybe. I don't know, maybe you do. But anyway, I want to do some British history today, so while I get ready, I'm about to go out and rock Hookah House tonight, do a show. You'll see yet another back to 10th video today. I've been on a video tear with that whole diversity training fucking voodoo that made me go through today. But I wanted to talk about just a little bit about I don't know, it's way, like, leather pants, it's 100 degrees out today, so the leather pants gotta go. But anyways, yes, I have leather shorts, because I'm a rock star, and also a MGTOW brother. So anyways, so, alright, basically what I want to talk about was Roman Britain, okay? Now, I have a whole lot of videos already. If you roll back, before I was a MGTOW brother, I was trying to make it a history channel show. Yeah, that didn't get a whole lot of. They didn't move a lot of product. Not a lot of likes and views on the history stuff. But I'm going to do it anyway. So Roman Britain. All right. So it all starts with Julius Caesar. He murdered. He had a fucking hard on for Celtic people. He murdered like. You will never hear the end of fucking what Hitler did, but you never even hear the beginning about what fucking Caesar did. He murdered mass murdered something like 2.3 million fucking Celtic people in Gaul, what's now France. And when he like made short order pretty much of Gaul, you know, he pretty much took almost all of what's now France, and then he conquered. He went further north of France, and he conquered a bunch of tribes called the Belgae. And that became Belgium. He conquered a bunch of tribes called the Helvetii in the Alps. That's what's now Switzerland. Like Caesar kicked a lot of ass, and he's a dick for murdering Celtic people. But he got to the edge of the world, or the edge of France, I guess, the edge of Europe, and it's like, you know, he's getting reports that there's Britons over there. We know that there's a bunch on island huge island full of fucking more Celts, more fucking Druids, more people painted with blue woad on their face and shit, more assholes that run into battle naked. That's what they were fighting against, the Romans, and that's pretty much what came, more of what they saw in Britain. Only that I think the Celts there were a bit wilder, less civilized. Like they weren't as close to Rome and Greece and civilization and shit. The Mediterranean at the time. Yeah, during the Iron Age, like the way that the Celts of Gaul were, you know, there were actually Celts in Italy, in like northern Italy, like the city of Milan, I think, was originally a Celtic city. I think Turin, like the northern bulk of Italy, the northwestern Italy, I think that was all Celtic. Cisalpine Gaul is what they called it. And basically Gaul on this side of the Alps, and then Gaul on the other side of the Alps was Transalpine Gaul. So Caesar sniffed around. He floated a couple boats up to Britain, and he didn't like what he dug up, stepped up to the plate. He didn't like what he saw. He stepped off. You know what I mean? So he didn't conquer. He didn't really go at Britain. Okay, he's like, I'm already great. We'll leave Britain for somebody else. And then pretty much, I mean, Julius Caesar was technically the first emperor of Rome. But, like, then you got, like, all right, after he really never truly, he became emperor, Imperator Rex is the title that he took, but, like, he never really, the Senate was still in power. It was senators that murdered him, and, you know, he never really became the full emperor that we think of him as. He never really, you know, he kicked so much ass, it never settled down in his life before he died. Let's put it that way. So then you had Augustus. Augustus Caesar was a romping, kick-ass dude full of swagger, swashbuckler type dude. You know, he liked a good rough and tumble fight. Augustus was more of a, it was more better at, like, he was a better politician. He was better at just running an empire and shit like that. And he did a great job because that was the most that was the apex of Roman history during Augustus's reign. That's the golden age of Rome. You know, the Pax Romana. It lasts, I think Augustus was emperor for like 40 years, and there was like 26 years of just nothing but prosperity. Rome just growing, growth. Everything was lovely. And that was actually, I think he was actually on the throne when Christ was, the moment when Christ was born. So the next emperor after him would be, and Augustus didn't need to go conquer shit to be popular. He already was. Now, the next emperor after him was Tiberius. He was a schmuck that really did nothing of note. And pretty much you got like Caesar, Augustus, and it just starts going downwards from there. It's like a downward story, pretty much the Roman Empire from then on in. But the next guy was Claudius, okay? That was the fourth Roman emperor, I think. I think it's fourth or fifth Roman emperor. But Claudius was, by the time he was like gearing up to be emperor, he's like, oh, when I become emperor, I gotta conquer Britain. Caesar didn't do it, and if I conquer Britain, everyone in Rome will think I'm the greatest because I did what Caesar couldn't do. So he bones up. Caesar was like fucking around with Britain in like 50 BC. I think this is like almost 100 years later, or like 70 years later. I think it's, for some reason, the 40 AD sticks out in my mind. I can't remember when it was that Claudius attacked Britain, but like pretty much the Romans, and they're systematic. They came there. They don't just come and just, oh, we're here, where do we go? No, they come there and they build bridges, castles, forts. The Romans were very engineer-friendly minded people. And so pretty much all of the towns that are Chesters, like Colchester, Winchester, there's one called Chichester that used to be like the Roman capital at one point. Anything with a Chester, it seems to be some sort of Roman, like, fortification. And all of Europe was pretty much Celtic at this time. Okay, or all of Britain was Celtic in one form or another. It was all Celtic tribes. So the Romans didn't like Celts. They didn't get along very well. So Claudius did end up taking it over, and when he did, it wasn't that big. I think the Britons were kind of like, all right, Romans are coming. Like it was kind of like the way Americans Americanize everything. Like, we don't actually conquer people, but we'll like put McDonald's and Burger Kings and Levi jeans and Reeboks and shit we sell there, and then the people start digging it, and then they start getting into American shit. Like, the Romans wrote the book on that shit. And I think pretty much when they got there, like, half the Celts were like, fuck you, get out, and half the Celts were like, nah, yo, I want some fucking Roman wine and some olive oil and some Roman bitches and some civilization up in my joint, please. So some of the the main tribe of Celts, there's a lot of different ones, okay? I'm not going to go over them all. They collectively called a bunch of the tribes Britons, and that's where the name Britain comes from. And then, of course, now the Iceni is where the tribe where Boudicca was from. And that was a tribe that was actually loyal to the Romans, but, you know, the Romans were there for like 10, 15 years, and they started, you know, doing Roman shit, like raping people's wives, and burning people's crops when they didn't fucking listen, and, you know, just kind of taking what they wanted, and like it was starting to get to the point where it was like, yo, these Romans need to get the fuck out of here. And then they did something where like basically the king of the Iceni got murdered, and his wife took over. Her name was Boudicca, redheaded, big fucking beastly crazy bitch. Yeah, she led the troops into battle. We always remember Joan of Arc. Nobody ever remembers Boudicca, bro. That's a fucking British monarch that everyone seems to forget. And wow, okay. But anyway, all right, I'm not going to go over the whole Boudicca story either, other than, like, she fought back, and she kind of, like, was winning at first. Like, she did, like, one of the new little provinces that the Romans were building was a place called Londinium. Sound familiar? Yeah, she tore London the fuck, a new asshole. She, like, burned, like, just pretty much everywhere she went. It was like a scorched earth policy. It was just tearing up the Romans. I mean, and also the one thing I forgot to mention about Claudius, when he came to Britain, they never saw. He came on an elephant. Like he rode in. Like here comes the Emperor Claudius. He went himself to Britain to like officiate over the officialness of the conquering of it becoming a Roman territory. And again, it wasn't. I don't think it was at first. It was almost welcomed with open arms. I don't think there was a whole lot of fighting. It was just kind of accepted. It was the fighting didn't happen until after the Romans were occupying it and fucking up. But anyway, Emperor Claudius rode in on an elephant, and nobody in England had ever seen an elephant. There's like all kinds of drawings left. Like, there's a couple things left to posterity that lasted through history of what people thought it looked like, trying to draw the elephant that they'd never seen before. That's kind of why I wanted to make the video. I just wanted to like bring that up. But really, after and after the Boudicca revolts, the Iceni revolts, I think they happened in like the 60s AD, 61 AD, 63 AD, somewhere around there. After that, Roman Britain really kind of settles down and becomes, for how barbaric and how wild and crazy the Celts were, became an exemplary state of the Roman Empire for the next 400 years, pretty much until like the Arthurian cycles and the Saxons and the Angles start coming. Celtic Britain was pretty dope, man. It was, and I think, the Scots, the Scottish were problems. Like the further out, the Irish were like sometimes a problem, but for the most part, what was now Britain, minus Wales, because they got pushed. All the Celts that would eventually get pushed into Wales by the Angles and the Saxons later, but for the most part, Britain, Celtic Britain, or Roman Britain, Romano-Celtic Britain, was a pretty dope place. Like, it was kind of like the westernmost hip little joint to go visit or take a vacation to. I don't know if Romans or Mediterranean people liked Britain, but there was a good economy there. There was, it was a nice place to be, I guess, for lack of better terms. But anyway, that comes to an end. The Celtic era per se and the Roman era both kind of end around 500 AD. A little bit before that, 490s AD is supposedly when when this Vortigern or whoever the Arthurian legend might have been. Like, there's a couple different people that they think that the Arthurian legend is based on. Anyway, once the Angles and the Saxons, and that's basically when you read the story of King Arthur, the bad guys in that are the Saxons. So, whatever. It was the end of one era and the beginning of a new era. So that's Celtic Britain. I'm not going to get too much into it. And the other thing I just wanted to tell y'all guys is I'm really gearing up I want to do justice to the 1066 story. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole Norman conquest. Like, just that is most Americans have no idea about anything really but 1776 British history. But I think this is really as much part of our history as it is yours. English history is our history. We speak English. We're an English nation. So it's English history is important to me. So, anyways, I want to do the 1066 story, and it's a great story, dude. If it can be, that could be a great fucking movie, man. Like, first off, there's 5 major characters. Okay, there's 5 major characters in the 1066 story. First, you got Edward the Confessor. All right, he's the quintessential king. He's pious. Everybody wants to be. Everybody so wants to be him. He's the only. After the Normans invade and conquer, Edward's one of the few Anglo-Saxon names that stays in the English vernacular. They respected him so much they kept his Anglo-Saxon name. Wiglaf, Sven, those names are gone from the English. They all got replaced by like Mike and Thomas and Rob and shit like that. But somehow Edward stayed. That's a really strange. It means like horse lover or something like that in Anglo-Saxon. Somehow it stayed. But you got Edward the Confessor, okay, and then like he's kind of the beginning of the story. Him dying. You got to have the Earl Godwin, the big papa, the big mafia father who's kind of running the strings behind the king, pulling the puppets, right? Pulling puppet strings, and then he dies, and then his sons get into a big argument, and Harold Godwin's son ends up winning the fight and becoming the next king of England, right? And then you got the fourth character would be Harold Hardrada, the king of Norway, who one of I I think Tostig is one of the. There's Tostig and Sven are both of Harald's brothers. One of them went to Norway and like got all the king of Norway, Harald, the big huge giant Viking on a big dragon ship, and they attacked York. Harold Godwinson got there with all the English troops in one day, right? The Anglo-Saxons won at the Battle of Stamford Bridge, defeated the Norsemen, but then you got the fifth guy in the story, William the Bastard, aka William the Conqueror. And I mean, bro, he's a brute. Like, he's like one of them Darth Vader characters. He would be kind of the bad guy, but like the anti-hero or whatever. And I mean, it's a story that's a tragedy because, you know, Anglo-Saxon Britain dies and Norman Britain begins, and then you got the whole doomsday and the whole piecemeal process of owning the occupation of Britain and the whole speaking French thing and the Angevin Empire. Like, it just all comes in after that. So I could just do a crazy dope video on that, but I need props, I need all kinds of fucking technology and shit. But anyway, I just wanted to do a quick history video, and I want to do it on Britain because I have a lot of homeboys in Britain. My homeboy Ziggy is MGTOW, Red Pill on steroids, Seek R, just to name a few. I got a bunch of others over there in the UK, across the pond. I mean, I don't know, shit on me. If I said anything wrong or offensive, holler back in the comments. But I hope you enjoyed it, man. I really dig history. My mind doesn't just focus on jokes and humor and rapping and music and womanizing. I'm also a history buff as well. So enjoy, have a good night. Watch for my next video. I should be live in a few minutes at the Hookah House. Bye.